Hello, everyone. I'm Terry Moran. Thanks for streaming with us. The hard-hit communities in America's heartland are picking up the pieces from the deadliest tornado outbreak in more than a decade. We'll have more on that in just a moment. Schools in Oxford, Michigan are closed today due to a social media threat that police say is of a violent nature. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office says dozens of threats have been made all across the county, and the number of threats are, quote, out of control, they say. Last month, 4 students were shot and killed in that district's high school. The parents of the alleged shooter are expected to appear in court today. Jennifer and James Crumbly. They pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter charges. Their son, Ethan, the shooter, appeared in court on Monday and pled not guilty to first-degree murder, terrorism, and other charges. Today is also the 9th anniversary of the Sandy Hook school massacre in Connecticut. Advocates gathered there yesterday demanding stronger gun laws. And sentencing for the 3 men convicted of killing Ahmaud Arbery is now set for January 7th. Greg and Travis McMichael and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan were all convicted of murder charges that carry a minimum penalty of life in prison in Georgia. The judge in Brunswick, Georgia, will decide whether that comes with or without the possibility of parole after 30 years. A court in Indianapolis approved a $380 million settlement in the sex abuse scandal in U.S. women's gymnastic teams. Of the more than 500 victims, some 300 were abused by Larry Nassar, the former U.S. women's national team doctor. Nassar will spend the rest of his life in prison after pleading guilty to sexually assaulting the young gymnasts. The House of Representatives is expected to vote today to hold former President Trump's White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in criminal contempt of Congress for refusing to fully cooperate with the Select Committee probing the January 6th insurrection. Meanwhile, committee members have revealed stunning new text messages that Mark Meadows received that day, January 6th, from the president's inner circle and from anchors on Fox News. Chief Washington correspondent John Carl has the latest.
Mark Meadows was chief of staff during the final days of the Trump presidency, privy to the actions of the former president and his inner circle as rioters stormed the Capitol. Now the January 6th committee wants the House to hold him in criminal contempt because he is refusing to answer questions about any of it.
No one is above the law, not even a former president's chief of staff.
Before refusing to cooperate, Meadows had turned over thousands of documents, including text messages and emails on his personal cell phones. Liz Cheney, the top Republican on the committee, says that some of them are from the president's own son, pleading with Meadows to get his father to call off the riot.
Quote, he's got to condemn this ASAP. The Capitol Police tweet is not enough, Donald Trump Jr. texted. Meadows responded, quote, I'm pushing it hard, I agree. Still, President Trump did not immediately act. Donald Trump Jr. texted again and again, urging action by the president. Quote, we need an Oval Office address. He has to lead now. It has gone too far and gotten out of hand, end quote.
In a letter late yesterday, a lawyer for Mark Meadows pleaded with Congress not to go forward with the contempt resolution, calling it a rush to judgment. Terry?
All right, John Carl, thanks very much for that fast-developing story on January 6th. We're going to turn now to the latest on that deadly series of tornadoes that ravaged the Midwest. At least 88 people have now been confirmed to have lost their lives across 5 states. President Biden is planning to visit some of the most devastated communities tomorrow. And our Rena Roy joins us live now from Mayfield, Kentucky with the latest. Rena, what are you seeing there on the ground in that very hard-hit town?
Well, Terry, as we know, it has now been several days since that deadly storm outbreak tore through this region, and it is taking some time to get through this complete devastation left behind. And the governor of Kentucky, he estimates that more than 1,000 homes were destroyed across the state in this storm, and this here is one of them. You can see that the roof, it is partially gone, and the tree there, that tree is wedged into what is left of the homeowner's bedroom. And walk across the driveway with me here. You can see just more piles of debris. And that there is the family's belongings, children's teddy bears and mangled Christmas trees. We did speak to the family here. They say that they are lucky to be alive. And we also spoke to a man named Charles Cook. He says that he, his pregnant wife, and his 4 children under the age of 10 were picked up by tornado force winds and launched into the air. They ended up 100 yards away in a field. Take a listen.
It's almost like you were in a war where grenades went off. I remember the lightning, the power flickering, and then it went off. And next thing you know, I felt suction, slipped, hit the ceiling, and I woke up in the woods looking up at the dark sky while it was raining.
And those stories are just so incredible to hear. So many here counting their blessings here today. Terry?
Absolutely, Rena. And the picture still, after a few days, it just take your breath away, the power of these storms. Now, it was said that there were perhaps more than 100 people missing over the past couple of days. How are recovery efforts going and identifying those missing?
You know, we actually got some great news overnight from officials at that candle factory here in town that collapsed during the storm. 110 workers were believed to be inside, but overnight officials announced that they believe everyone has now been accounted for, and they are confident that there is no one left in that rubble. But across the state, the governor is saying that the death toll could go up over the next few weeks, and that we probably won't get a final count until a couple weeks from now. And we do know that there are cadaver dogs that are going door to door in different towns just to sift through the debris. Terry?
All right. And Rena, finally, President Biden is going to make a trip to survey the damage there in Kentucky. What's his agenda there? What's he doing?
So we know that he will be traveling here to this disaster zone tomorrow, and he says he really just wants to speak to the people here firsthand. He really wants to understand exactly what they're going through and figure out what exactly they need. We know that Biden has already, he signed an emergency federal declaration for this state here. He has directed federal resources here. Red Cross has opened nearly a dozen shelters across the state, and FEMA has also been here distributing a number of resources, including generators, thousands of meals, thousands of bottles of water, and medical supplies and resources. Terry?
All right, Rena Roy there in Mayfield, Kentucky. Thanks very much for that report. And we are expecting to hear from Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear at noon Eastern. We'll bring that to you live when it happens. Pfizer is reporting new data about its COVID-19 treatment pill. The company's CEO is calling it a, quote, game changer in this pandemic. Trevor Alt has the latest details on that.
As the U.S. passes 50 million confirmed cases of COVID-19, there's promising news about treating this deadly virus. Pfizer unveiling new data from its COVID treatment pill that shows it could save thousands of lives.
I'm optimistic because I think we never were so close to put an end to this pandemic by having so powerful tools.
It's a series of 30 pills taken over 5 days, and studies show when taken within 3 days of diagnosis, it can reduce the risk of hospitalization or death by 89% and 88% among high-risk unvaccinated patients when taken within 5 days.
It is a game changer. But at the same time, I want to emphasize that no one should use the existence of the pill as an excuse to avoid vaccination.
The U.S. has already purchased 10 million treatments, and Pfizer's CEO says the pill could possibly be approved before the end of the year, though the FDA will still need to review the data. Merck has already submitted data to the FDA requesting approval for their pill, which showed a 30% reduction in hospitalization and death. Both companies believe their pills will likely work against the Omicron variant. And a new study not yet peer-reviewed shows prior immunity will help against the variant too. The study suggesting Omicron is unlikely to cause severe illness in people who have been previously infected. And here in New York, healthcare workers are still required to get vaccinated. A small group of doctors and nurses asked the Supreme Court to block that order, but the court has refused to do so. Terry?
All right, Trevor Alt, there was some good news from Pfizer. Thanks very much. Well, in the United Kingdom, COVID infections are skyrocketing, even as the British Health Secretary says Omicron is set to become the dominant strain in London. Our Maggie Rulli is there with the latest. Hi, Maggie.
Hey, Terry. Yeah, health officials here are saying that no other COVID variant has spread this fast, and they fear that in less than 36 hours, Omicron will become the dominant variant here in London. Now, already, it makes up 44% of cases in the city, and numbers are doubling every 2 to 3 days. So far, there are 10 confirmed cases in hospitals, and the first death from Omicron has been reported here in the UK. But at this point, we still don't know anything about that patient's age or any pre-existing conditions. Officials are now warning we should expect those numbers to dramatically increase in the days and weeks that lie ahead. But Terry, by how much and how severe, that we still don't know. This is such a new variant, and officials are trying to keep up with science that's unfolding in front of them in real time. So far, what they say, they know their best bet is boosters. That's why they're really pushing this right now. The health secretary has confirmed that 2 shots is not always enough to protect against symptomatic infection of Omicron. But when you have that booster, it does provide strong protection. Now, since they made that announcement, we have been seeing long lines pop up at booster clinics. Terry, I saw some in my neighborhood that wrapped all the way around the block. The government's saying now we're in another race of variant versus vaccine. Terry?
Maggie Rulli in London, thanks for that. Get your shots if you haven't. So coming up, we're going to switch gears and welcome back a familiar and welcome face, our friend and former insomniac, Diane Meadows, here to talk about her new book, The Sleep Fix, and her message to anyone struggling to sleep. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Our friend and colleague, Diane Meadows, has a brand new baby at home, but this week she's back to talk about her new book, The Sleep Fix, it's called, and it's out now. And it's all about a former insomniac's journey to finding better sleep. Diane says her, quote, low point was when Ambien stopped working for her. We're going to talk to Diane in just a moment, but first, Will Gans has her story.
Watching Diane Meadows on air.
We're going to have more on that adorable story coming up, but we have a lot of news to get to this morning.
You never know the mom of 2 and Emmy-winning journalist was running on empty.
I would spend 12 hours in bed to get maybe 3 hours of sleep on a typical night.
Deciding to fix the problem. Everything she learned, and then some, published in her brand new book. The Sleep Fix, a tell-it-like-it-is guide from a former insomniac.
This is not just a book of, here's what worked for me. I talked to top minds from all across the field of sleep medicine.
Breaking down the myths around early risers versus night owls. Turns out the early bird doesn't always get the worm.
If you don't have to be up at 3 a.m., don't try to force yourself to wake up at 3 a.m. because Mark Wahlberg does it.
Providing practical tips as you upgrade your sleep habits. That old anxiety around your phone and blue light, for example. Forget about it.
It's not really the blue light that's keeping you awake. It's the fact that you can't pull away from this screen and you're just going to bed too late. So I do actually have a few tips in the book to help with that, quote unquote screen addiction, because that's not really a sleep problem. That's a time problem.
Tips like putting your phone into grayscale or only checking your phone while standing if you're in your bedroom. Bottom line, no matter your issue, Diane says there's a sleep fix for you.
You don't need to freak out if you haven't been getting enough of it. The body is equipped to heal from that, and there is scientific evidence to show that. So everyone take a breath. We're going to be fine.
Well, that's reassuring, and Diane joins me now. Diane, it's great to see you. We miss you.
Oh, good to see you too, Terry. I miss you all too, but I have to say that scrumptious little baby that's keeping me home, it's hard to get away from her.
I'll bet. Congratulations. So, sleep, a former insomniac. How did this all start? What made you want to take such a deep dive into the topic of sleep?
Well, it started because I had my own problems for years, and I started off dismissing them, and then they got so bad I couldn't ignore them anymore. So I started trying all of the typical sleep tips that I read about everywhere, and that just made me worse. I read popular sleep books, again, got worse, and as Will mentioned, I even tried Ambien, and Ambien stopped working for me. So I kind of got desperate, And I started then reading, after I got screened for sleep apnea, I started reading sleep textbooks and things like that. And that's where I found the answers that worked for me. But that sort of just opened up a new door. And I started going down this rabbit hole and interviewing experts and reading all this research about not just the problems I had, but other common sleep problems that keep people awake. Because ultimately, I was surprised at how different the information that helped me and the information I was learning about in this research was from some of the more common things that we hear about in sleep in the zeitgeist. So I felt like someone had to get this message out there. And after a couple of years, I guess I decided that someone had to be me.
It's a great idea. So the sleep fix, what is it?
It ultimately depends on what it is that's keeping you awake. And so chapter 1 of the book is called Identifying the Problem. And it's all about, you know, that aspect of things. I think a sleep diary is a great tool to do this. And there are several others laid out in the book. But I think one of the myths that's out there is, you know, that there are going to be these top 10 sleep tips for everyone. And if everyone does these things, they're going to sleep well. And I think for those of us with insomnia, that ends up becoming problematic because we do all these things. We still don't sleep well. That makes us more frustrated, and that frustration makes it harder for us to sleep. So you end up in this really lonely, horrible cycle. And I want everybody to know that that's not your only option. There are other answers out there.
So I'm getting on in years, getting a little old at that point where your sleep pattern changes, I guess, and I'm noticing that. And for you, did your research help you get better sleep?
It did, and it's interesting because I had already kind of fixed my insomnia long before I wrote the book. But I talk about this moment where my husband, out of nowhere, just sort of blurted out, and this was while I was writing it, he just sort of blurted out, "I can't believe it's not a thing anymore." And I was like, "What's not a thing?" And he said, "You know, your sleep problems. I thought that was just how you are, and that's something we're just going to have to live with, and now it's just not a thing anymore." And at this point, I hadn't had insomnia in like 2 years. So I, at first, was kind of confused as to why he was expressing this sentiment now. But I realized that throughout the process of writing this book and learning not only so many more sleep tools than the ones I knew before, but also the foundation for why they work, the foundation behind why these problems happen, having that knowledge has helped me to kind of tweak these things as my life continues to change, because my life is very different now than it was 4 years ago. And yet I keep continuing to be able to use these tools so I continue to sleep well. And that's something I wanted to parlay in the book. It's not just a list of here's what you're supposed to do. It's let me explain to you why this problem is happening, what's actually going on behind the scenes, and thus you understand why this solution works and how to maybe tweak it. So if you can't do it perfectly exactly the way the rule book says, then you can adjust it so you're still keeping the spirit of it, but you're living your regular life too.
That's great. So understanding sleep in general and one's own sleep in particular is the key. Now, I can't help but ask, so you were figuring out this sleep thing just as you had your little ones, which who are the anti-sleep, right? Aren't they? They're the wake-up pills.
Yeah, there's an irony in releasing a book about sleep when you have a 2-month-old at home. But I'll tell you, I'm very grateful that I addressed this, because I addressed this right before I had my son, who's now 3. And I'm very grateful that I did, because, yes, babies keep you awake. But, you know, right now, for example, with my daughter, I wake up, I tend to her in the middle of the night if she needs me to, I put her down, and I go back to bed and I can fall back asleep. And that was something I couldn't do before. So had I not fixed my sleep problems before I had my children, when they were waking me up throughout the night, I then would have been up all night. And now, thankfully, that's not the case. So even though I do have little ones to sometimes attend to in the middle of the night, I can still get a decent night's sleep because I'm able to fall back asleep.
Oh, that's great. That is the trick in some ways, getting back to sleep. So what's the one thing you want someone who is struggling with sleep to get out of this book?
You know, I want people to know that they don't have to struggle. I think many of us dismiss our sleep problems as, you know, that's just the way I'm built. And that's just not the case. If you have trouble falling asleep, if you have trouble staying asleep, or if you feel sleepy all day, like you need a nap all day, or you're that person who falls asleep in waiting rooms regularly, and you don't know why because you think you're getting enough sleep, those are signs that something is wrong. And chances are that something is fixable. And so I want people to realize that so they can start addressing this, because honestly, addressing these issues can absolutely change your life. And I'm not being dramatic here. In some cases, it can actually save your life.
Well, that's great. You just sold the book to me. So, and maybe you'll sign it. when you're back. And it's great to have you back with
Terry.
us. Can't wait to see you. Congrats on the book.
Thank you, Terry.
See you soon. Well, the Sleep Fix is out now, and tonight, Diana's hosting a virtual launch event with Ginger Z at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more on Diane's Twitter page. Diane's going to be joining us here for the rest of the week to talk more about tackling sleep problems. I've got a list of them that I'll present to her. But coming up, it is Free Shipping Tuesday, so how to make sure your online orders are delivered in time for Christmas morning. And welcome back to ABC News Live. It's Free Shipping Day today for some online retailers. There are special deals out there to help you wrap up. See what I did there? Your holiday shopping. Becky Worley has all the details.
Browse, click, buy. But if you get to that cart and a shipping fee is added on, oh, no. But never fear. Free Shipping Day is here.
This is a very exciting day because a lot of major retailers promise on-time delivery for the Christmas holidays. And because it's so close to Christmas, it lights a little fire under us to get those orders placed.
While many retailers offer free shipping today, the website freeshippingday.com aggregates hundreds of web retailers offering free shipping and savings codes. In addition, many will offer specific discounts to seal the deal. At Target, the AirPod Pros are $179. That's $70 off. The Gap has 50% or more off of your entire purchase, and Amazon has the Echo Dot smart speaker with a clock display for just $35. That's $25 off. It's a great gift for teens, giving them music and an alarm while keeping the phone out of the bedroom.
Now, we will see some additional sales happening. So something that you can do as a consumer is opt for curbside pickup, for instance, to ensure that you have that item in your hands in time for Christmas. If you are placing orders with retailers online after today, be prepared to pay additionally for expedited shipping.
And if you're shipping your own packages and you want them there by Christmas without paying rush delivery rates, the deadlines are Thursday, December 15th for the U.S. Postal Service and FedEx Ground, Saturday the 17th for first-class mail, and UPS says December 21st is the last day for 3-day select delivery. A few more deals live now. A 12-piece Cuisinart cookware set bizarrely at Best Buy for $99. That's $200 off list and its lowest price that we've ever seen on it. REI has 30% off puffer jackets and vests, and the elusive Nintendo Switch is back in stock when I last checked. Full price, $299 at Walmart. Terry?
Thank you, Worley. Thanks for those tips. I'm going to GameStop, I think, when we get off the air. I'm Terry Moran. The news continues on ABC News Live right after this break.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.